Hi world, it's the 15th of October 2021. It's about 9:30 in the morning UK time. So look, we've been going through this long period with many planets retrograde. Over the last few weeks we've had Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all retrograde. Every planet in the sky's been retrograde apart from Venus and Mars. When planets retrograde, generally, a general rule of thumb is that when a planet moves forward, your direction, events happen, situations develop, circumstances occur. Then the planet goes retrograde. During the retrograde period, those circumstances, events and developments are reassessed and reevaluated, and some are found to be good and worthwhile, so will continue to develop and thrive. Others will be seen to be not correct, so they will be discarded. Then the planet moves forward again, clears its retrograde shadow and moves into the future, at which point either actions become consolidated and established or new actions occur to replace the ones you've discarded. That's a general rule of thumb with all retrogrades. Pluto stopped going retrograde about 7.5 days ago. Saturn stopped going retrograde about 4 days ago. Mercury's going to stop going retrograde in 3.5 days time, 3 days time, and Jupiter's going to stop going retrograde in 2.5 days time. So we're coming to the end of a period of what I've seen as gravity. It's almost as if time has stood still, both for myself and for many other people. And there's been this kind of inertia where things have happened, but there's always been this sense of gravity, pressure, intensity, density. This is beginning to draw to a close, although as Mercury stands still, it's going to stand still for a week. So we're not really going to see a significant decrease in the gravity and pressure of recent times until we're into about the 22nd, 23rd of this month. And Mercury won't clear its retrograde shadow properly until the 1st, 2nd of December. But by that time, the craziness of the last few weeks should have begun to resolve itself, which then pushes us into a time of actions, events and decisions which in many ways are going to encapsulate the period of the last 2 years. COVID occurred on a planet synchronous with the Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, or around that time, which then lasted throughout 2020, or at least the Saturn-Pluto conjunction did. It cleared in December 2020 as Jupiter and Saturn moved the same day into Aquarius. Saturn then started squaring Uranus for a year. This is still going on, and there will be traces of it next year. It seems, viewing with hindsight now, that over the last year and 3/4, COVID has split into different variants and slowly got weaker. Less people are dying. That's A, because a lot of people are vaccinated. And that still doesn't mean you don't get COVID, but people who are vaccinated don't seem to be getting COVID so bad as those who have not been vaccinated. And B, because the virus itself does seem to be slowly getting weaker, like 1% a month, something like that. But from my astrological perspective, it seems pretty clear to me that by the time we're into the middle of next year, COVID is going to be just as sort of a parallel with bad flu. It also seems from my astrological perspective that we're heading into a few-month period, the winter in the Northern Hemisphere, which in many ways is going to summarise the last 2 years. And this is indicated by a number of factors. Primarily, the movement of the sun and the moon around the Earth. The moon is actually quite a way away from the Earth at the moment. And if you're looking at the moons at the moment, the full moons, they're going to be slightly smaller than average in size to the naked eye, because the moon is slightly further away. And at the moment, and for the next 5 or 6 months, there's a regular distance of the moon. It's not coming in that much towards the Earth. It's staying out there. This is causing the full moons and new moons to be at the same degree over consecutive months. So here's a cycle for you. Let's deal with the new moons first. No, shall we? Yes, let's. Where are we now? We're on October the 15th. So let's look at the new moons first, I think. No, let's look at the full moons, because the next one's a full moon. There's a full moon on the 20th of October at 27 degrees of Aries. There's a full moon, which is a partial eclipse of the moon, on the 19th of November, which is at 27 degrees of Taurus. There's a full moon on the 19th of December at 27 degrees of Gemini, and there's a full moon on the 17th of January at 27 degrees of Cancer, followed by a full moon on the 16th of February at 27 Leo, and finally a full moon on the 18th of March at 27 Virgo. After this, the moon begins to draw closer to the Earth, so the moons get earlier in the signs. Now, full moons are generally indicated around endings. Now, of this 6 months of full moons, it's going to hit everybody, especially those born around the 18th, 19th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th of their respective months. Unless you're born in February, in which case it's going to be about the 12th, 13th, 14th, 13th, 14th, 15th. And if you're one of these people, then the next 6 months is going to be bringing elements of ending, releasing and letting go. Whether it's as unfortunate and sad enough as someone who's already elderly and infirm, or whether it's the end of a project, end of a relationship, end of a career, it's the end of a friendship, it's the end of an attitude or a philosophy or a belief. There seems to be a lot of endings for those people born with lots of planets around 27 degrees of whatever sign, at least over the coming 6 months. But this isn't all, because the new moons are also at the same degree. The new moon on the 4th of November will be at 12 degrees of Scorpio. On the 4th of December, the total eclipse of the sun will be at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. On the 2nd of January, 12 Capricorn. On the 1st of February, 12 Aquarius. And then on the 2nd of March, 12 Pisces, after which the moon starts coming closer to the Earth, so the degree of the new moon will be earlier in each sign. But again, this is going to be affecting a lot of people, especially those born around the 4th, 5th of their respective month, unless you're born in February, in which case it'll be the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. But these are the people who are looking at fresh starts and new beginnings, launching something new. It's a great time for these people, most of these moons. But during the 6 months of moons, there are 3 of these moons that are real stinkers. And unfortunately, the next 2 are 2 of those 3. The full moon that's coming up, blimey, very shortly, Wednesday, next week, is going to be at 27.5 degrees of Aries. And this is going to be square Pluto. Both the sun and the moon will be square Pluto. So those of you born around the 14th, 15th, 16th of your respective month who have been hit by Pluto strong over the last couple of years, then this full moon represents a time of conclusion. And it's a time where a lot of stuff that's been going on over the last couple of years is going to begin wrapping itself up. But take out the personal, put it into the mainstream. Over the coming week or so with this full moon, there's going to be a lot of yes, no, black, white decisions and statements which are going to alienate a lot of people. And it's not a very nice full moon. So the advice to people here in general is step back and don't let your buttons get pushed, which is not going to be listened to by most people. Thing is, immediately after this, there's a new moon in Scorpio on the 4th of November at 12 degrees 40 minutes of Scorpio, on the same day that Uranus is at 12 degrees 45 minutes of Taurus. The new moon is exactly opposite Taurus. Now, when you've got the sun and the moon together exactly opposite Uranus, there's only two options. Change will happen. That is a given. There's going to be a lot of change around the world, but also particularly in the charts of people born in the sign of Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus. If those of you born around the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th of your respective months, change will either occur in ways that's going to bring drama, sudden changes, disruption, chaos. Rugs are going to be pulled from underneath the feet. There's going to be a sense of disorder and a lack of cohesion. That's Uranus at its worst. Or change will be stimulating, innovative, original, exciting, fun and adventurous, with words like independence, freedom and liberty. Hopefully that's the case for most individuals, especially those that are open to change and are willing to embrace new paradigms. Those who are still hoping to continue life as it was 3 years ago, with cheap bucket flights all over the world and living off of burgers and processed foods all the time, are, well, they're not going to find their health getting any better. Not just physical, but mental, emotional and psychological health as well. There's an upgrade being pushed here. It's almost as if the universe is pushing humanity into an upgrade, and those who choose to take it will thrive and prosper, and those who don't choose to take it will either be pushed into it kicking and screaming, or they'll get left behind. As we get into November, late November, with the full moon in Taurus and then the new moon in Sagittarius in early December, these are both eclipses. And eclipses do bring points of finality and fresh starts and new beginnings. And just to make it worse, the full moon at the middle of January is exactly opposite Pluto. Now I see this as a launch point for a whole fresh start, in terms of globally refreshing and restarting the ideas of compassion, kindness, feeling and emotion in terms of governmental structures and the way the governments allegedly care for their people. And in a personal chart, it's going to bring a realization for many people that actually they've got to start looking after themselves, because no one else is going to do it. Now, once we're past this full moon in January, and in many people's charts that I'm doing, it really does seem that once we're past the end of February, for 85% of people, the hardest time of 2022 will be over by the end of February. But that's 85% of people. There's still big changes to come next year, especially environmentally. But let's get through the next few months. Let's get through the next 3 months, the next 13 weeks. And then I truly think we're going to be able to start closing the door on the last couple of years, not ignoring the lessons, but thinking hopefully that the very worst is over. So hang in there, folks. Keep going. The next 3 months, and particularly the next month, is critical. The next 3 or 4 weeks is critical. We're coming out of Mercury retrograde, out of Jupiter retrograde. We've got 2 killer moons, the full moon followed by the new moon, and there are going to be big changes. And the way we react to them, both collectively and individually, is going to say a lot about the way that we seed the long-term future. So live according to your conscience, act responsibly, and kind of don't expect governments and states to do that much for you anymore, because we're not on our own, but community and friends and family are going to be a bit more reliable than the people who are supposed to be looking after us and nurturing us. Take care, world. Speak to you soon. Bye.